And that is so slow tonight. Hello and welcome. You're listening to Let's Drone Out. Tonight we are joined by our Lord and Master, Andrew/Frank.
Good evening.
The man who does the loveliest thumbnails.
Good evening.
Howdy.
I can hear myself. The loveliest.
Does someone have a speaker in the background?
Good evening.
Howdy.
Does
someone have a speaker in the background?
Howdy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking Mostafa might need headphones, possibly.
Yeah.
Or do you have the YouTube open in the background, maybe?
Yeah.
The headphone. Okay, let me see.
Yeah.
If I can.
Start again. Feedback.
It's all right.
No worries.
Another day of Let's Drone Out.
It's fine.
All right. Another day of Let's Drone Out.
They're having a rave.
Another day of Let's Drone Out.
They're having a rave.
Been printing you some reels. Oh,
Oh, sweet.
been printing you some reels.
I think
Is
we're
it
good
better
now.
now?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh, unless someone's phone is watching us.
Is it me?
Is it Jack? Oh,
I
come
don't
on,
think
Jack.
it's me.
Who has the YouTube open?
It is not me, I swear.
Can you
Jack.
can you guys still hear me?
Yep,
Yep,
I'm still
we
hearing
can
you
hear you.
perfectly.
Yep.
Yeah, I think. Oh,
Yeah, Mustafa, I think it's you. Hang on.
Do you have a YouTube page open of the live
Yeah,
stream?
on something else.
On
Phone,
another tab?
monitor. Yeah, it's definitely him.
Yeah. There's some kind of feedback going on. I'm not sure. Oh, is it fixed now?
yeah.
Seems to be all right for us, but I
Yeah.
imagine you've got an echo in your headphones now. It's in the background somewhere for you. But if you can understand us, then perfect. We'll carry on.
I still have that echo.
Yeah, you've got us open in another window.
Yeah, I think you might have a tab open with the
It-
live stream.
Is it better now?
Yep.
Yeah,
It's good for us.
we can't hear it.
Great. So I think that problem. So now it should be fine, right?
Yep.
All right. Great.
Cool.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
No worries. Hello and welcome. You're listening to Let's Drone Out with technical difficulties. We are joined by our Lord and Master, Andrew/Frank,
Good evening.
the man behind the most beautiful thumbnails, Cole,
Howdy.
and our special guest, Dr. Mostafa Hassanalian.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for coming on and bearing with us.
Yep. I randomly came across one of your videos, I think from Instagram, and it was on some levels we kind of we work with the same electronics, and you know what a servo is, and you're very into drones. We're into like the small, like sort of like racing drones and flying RC planes and stuff. And then it was, I think, an interview where you had, I can only imagine, was some sort of taxidermied eagle. Was it an ornithopter?
Yes, that was a
No
flat-winged one, and it was actually a pheasant family choker. and the body, and also the wings of the pigeon. So we have actually built multiple example of this type of drones, which I can talk about that later on.
Yes. And also I had you're so fascinating. I don't know where to begin because I had a quick little look at your resume. There was stuff that I was hoping Tony would be here for, where you've do things for mine detection. I think that's your current project, and then you were talking about oil and gas lines. You've even done stuff with NASA and the cool little sort of centipede sort of so I'm guessing your background is a little bit of biology mixed with just electro engineering, mechanical engineering, yeah.
Yeah, so my background is mechanical engineer, and my research is I have been doing research on drones since 2008. And all my career here and all my education has been in this area, which I try to integrate biomimicry or inspiration from nature into the drone technology, as well as the robotics. So we have been working on drones for varieties of application, including in underground mines, in underground coal mines, building and developing the first permissible and explosive-proof drones for the coal mine, which is a big challenge. I can show you a video here, as well as designing drones in size of the dandelion seeds, which they basically can fly through the wind. So here, once we talk about biomimetics and bioinspiration, we have two terminologies here. Bioinspiration means that you look at the nature and try to inspire from nature and develop something. So all the airplanes and submarines or any aquatic systems that we see, they are bioinspired because we as a human, we looked at the bird or for example, a killer whales or fish, and we developed airplanes and unmanned underwater systems. But biomimicry means that you mimic the nature and you try to replicate the nature. So for example, if I develop a flapping wing drone inspired from a butterfly or a snake-like robot or this dragonfly drone, so this is going to be a biomimicry. So to just show you the diversity of the drones configurations, so a couple of years ago in 2017, I published a review paper about drones classification and configuration, which has been cited 1,300 times in the Google Scholar, and it has been a reference of the drone technology for many agencies. So once you talk a drone, everybody is thinking about a quadcopter or hexacopter or RC model airplane, but actually drone is going to be more than that. So we have classified drones based on their weight as well as their dimension from the UAV, stand for unmanned aerial vehicle, that the largest one that they have been developed by researchers is about 61 meter, about 15,000 kilogram, until to the size of the smart dust or dust-sized particle, which they are using micro or nano electromechanical systems, which they basically can do whatever a drone is doing. So in this category, we have UAV, micro UAV, three classes of micro drones, including micro, nano, and pico aerial vehicle. And that's the range that comes to my expertise, that we have developed drones that they can be like bird in the size of the birds or hummingbirds or as well as insects. But if you want to build drones in size of the insects, there is always complexities in the technologies. So we don't have any batteries in the order of the milligrams, or we don't have any electric motor in that size. And that's the place that a lot of agencies here in the US, also other countries, they came with this idea that maybe instead of building drones in size of mosquitoes, we can control the live insects and use them as a drone. So here I just wanted to show you that drones can be more than quadcopters or hexacopters. So by today, more than about 20 or 30 different configurations of drones that they are using different flight mechanisms in order to fly. So the generating aerodynamic forces or lift and thrust, it's not just having propellers or motors. There are another way to generate those aerodynamic forces. We have published another review papers 2 years ago, which actually we tried to map a specific application for drones with configurations that they are being developed by researchers. So here I want to show you a funny application, and the main reason I bring that, I had a student from Imperial College in London, and she reached out to me and asked me to work to be her research advisor. And the projects that we defined for her was to combine the fashion industry with drone technology. And here the idea was to develop a swarm of the butterfly-inspired drones, which they can follow a celebrity in the red carpet and fly around the person for the Met Gala event. So this is probably a not useful application of the drone, but it shows that how much a drone technology can be advanced and what broad application they can have. So here, this slide, I want to show you that how biomimicry or inspire from nature is going to help us to develop this type of drone technology. So dandelion seeds, these are seeds that they can fly up to 100 miles or 160 kilometers through the wind. Wind just take them, and they generate a vortex, a ring above them, which allow them to generate lift and stay in the air. You will see a pillbug or roly-poly. They are amazing insects with a crawling
Woodlouse.
Exactly.
is the English. We're like, what?
We call them potato bugs. We call them potato bugs in Canada.
Oh no, there's a whole kind of worms of what is this called? Yeah.
Yeah, we call them roly-poly or pillbugs. So they have a crawling, curling, and rolling mechanism. We have a jellyfish with an amazing swimming mechanism. We have this spider, which is called golden wheel spider, with jump and roll, and it's found in the deserts in Namibia. Once they're in the presence of predator or in the downhill, in order to save energy, they start to roll and jump. We have a grass
that is the thing of nightmares.
with jumping capability, and other species, since they're not related to drones, so I'll skip talking about them. We have been looking at developing some robots which they can mimic those spider and create this type of locomotion with jumping and rolling capability for lunar and Martian exploration. Because if you want to go to the Mars, one of the big challenges is basically the rocky surface of the Mars. So all the rovers that are being sent to the Mars, they have cracks in their wheels. So we have been trying to develop this type of concepts, a swarm of these rolling jumpings that they can help with this NASA's missions or planetary exploration. This is our grasshopper jumping robot. So on Moon, we cannot fly any drones because there is a big challenge there. There is no any atmosphere there. And the other challenge is the dust for terrestrial robots. So we have been looking at developing a jumping robot that they are inspired from the grasshoppers, which because of the low gravity on Moon and the lack of atmosphere, that would be a very efficient locomotion to perform in the lunar environment. And this is our pillbug robot, as you can see it here. This is a robot that we have developed based on the pillbug. The main reason I'm explaining this, because this type of robot, I'll show you in my future slide, they're going to be carried by drones for planetary exploration. I'll talk about that more shortly. So this is a testing. This is our jellyfish-inspired drone. And this is basically helium gas-filled components that they are mimicking this. This is a project I have with the company here that we are developing and helping company with the stratospheric airships. So let's keep that. And I want to show you a new technology, a new drone configuration that we have developed based on the dandelion seeds.
Wow.
So this is a dandelion seeds. And as you can see it here, once you're exposed to the air, there is a vortex ring happening above them, which would generate lift. And that's the reason that how those small seeds, they can fly 100 miles or 160 kilometers through the wind. So mimicking them, we actually have generated these micro drones that they are inspired from dandelion seeds. They are batteryless. They are using solar panels and backscatter communication for basically transferring the data, and optical communication as well. So they have a humidity sensor, pressure, gas sensor, oxygen sensors, light sensors, and they harness energy through the solar panel as well as through the piezoelectric material that they are integrated to the body, and through the vibration of their structure, they will be able to harness energy to provide basically electricity to our microelectronics. So this is about 0.3 grams. It's a very, very tiny. And the main objective is to have this type of small, tiny drones in like a couple of grams or milligrams to be deployed by a drone, and they will be taken by wind, and wind will be able and it will be able to create a network and start to collect informations. So this type of dandelion seeds can be carried by a terrestrial robot, or they can be carried by a drone. So here it shows the dropping, and the wind will take them actually to far distances. So that's an ongoing project. We are still working on them. So half of my research is drones for planetary explorations. Once we talk about drones in other planets, so we need to be careful that the drones that we are designing for the Earth's environment is not going to work in other planets, because the gravity is changing. There is a different types of atmosphere, there are different conditions. So the design process, the traditional design process that we have here, it's not going to work for drone in other planets. So these are all these type of drones that I have been designing and building since 2008, including the fixed wing drones, micro aerial vehicles, tilt rotor and tilt wing drones, as well as flapping wings drones, and multi-rotors that we have been working, which I'll show you later on. So if you want to talk about Venus, Venus has extreme condition, high pressure, high temperature, and acidic environment. So the temperature on the surface of the Venus is 700 kelvins, which is an extreme conditions there. And Venus has acidic rains, and that makes a problem for the drones to fly in that harsh condition. So one of the projects that we did was to develop a drone which can fly in the mid altitude on Venus and start to harness energy from the available resources there.
Wow.
So on Moon, as I said, mainly jumping robot. Titan, which is Saturn's moon. This is the best photo that we have from Titan from one of the past NASA's mission. And Titan has the oceans of the liquid methane. So Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory in US, in collaboration with the JPL NASA and Los Alamos National Lab, they have actually designed and built this drone, which they were supposed to launch in 2026. And recently I heard from the team that they have postponed it. This drone, which is called Dragonfly, it takes 9 years for these drones to get to the Titan. And so this is going to use a plutonium-based or nuclear-based propulsion system, this drone. But one of the big challenges of this mission is if something goes wrong with the entry, then that would be a disaster for that drone. But a project that we have been doing, Titan has an atmospheric density 5 times more than the density of Earth. And the gravity is 10% of gravity of Earth. So if we attach 2 wings to our body, we easily can gain lift and we can fly on Titan. So we have developed a vertical takeoff landing drone, which can basically harness energy from the available resources on Titan. So the first one is that drones can land over the liquid methane, harness that liquid methane as a source of the gas, and with converting with the armored oxygen, so it has a fuel already available there to fly for long distances on Titan. The other 2 approach, which we have inspired from nature, is through the thermal and dynamic soaring, harnessing energy from the temperature gradient as well as the shear wind on Titan in order to have a sustainable flight there. Mars is a different story. So low dense atmosphere, the density of Mars atmosphere is 100 times less than Earth. So one of our bio-inspired concept, you probably have seen these birds that they get a free ride of the other bird. So here there are two options here. The birds that might be lazy or they might be smart. So it can be one of this, but probably it can be both because crows are considered as a smart birds and eagles sometimes they give free rides to the crows and they don't mind to give free rides to crows. But sometimes they get annoyed because it's extra payload that they need to carry. So what they do actually, they gain elevation and then the crows they no longer can breathe because there is a less level of oxygen there and then they just go away. So inspiration from this, we actually developed a drone which can have they can get a free ride from the other drones for the Martian for Mars exploration, and they can have a precision docking in a GPS denied environment. So here is one of the tests that we did in the lab. So we want to have a drone that would basically find a target and can do the precision docking, or I have that subject which is moving, which is mimicking my VTOL drone, and I want to find that and do the docking. So this is basically mimicking what is happening in the nature. And here I talked about the dandelion seeds. The application that we have considered for this multi-agent drone robot system is to study the Martian lava tubes or volcanic caves. So if we go to the Mars and if we don't have the astronaut suits, we cannot survive more than 20 seconds, and UV light is going to kill us. So that's the reason lots of space agencies, they are looking at the subsurface on Mars as the potential habitat for the astronauts. So one of the NASA's mission, they have found about thousands of these lava tubes or entrances to these volcanic caves that they can be as a potential habitat, but they have not been able to send any robots there because the robots are huge. So a mission that we have defined is a drone would carry out this Spielberg robot or any other terrestrial, drop it to these lava tubes, and since they have the open entrances, there is a wind going inside, and that robot would be able to deploy those dandelion seeds, and they will be able to collect information and find out about what's going on in the subsurface on Mars. So I'll skip this robotic projects here for NASA. So now I want to show you about another aspect which is really important in the drone technology. It's about energy. So if you look at the current drones, they cannot fly more than an hour, especially quadcopter, and that's a big challenge. So how we can learn from nature to develop some sorts of system which they can basically save energy. So it's about 10 miles from my college town here, that my campus is here. There is a second largest refuge, which is called Bosque del Apache. And every year, about 300,000 migratory birds from Canada or the colder part of the US, they come to the south and they basically stay here for a couple of months. So if you look at these terminologies, flock, swarm, herd, school, or huddling in penguins, these are that they are animals, they are working together to achieve something. And there are multiple reasons for that. So they are doing this to find food or to as an anti-predator adaptation mechanism or a defense mechanism, or in the flock of the birds, they are mainly doing for save energy. So formation flight or V formation or echelon formation is well known for centuries, that the birds, they are flying in the V in order to achieve longer distances and reduce their drag. But one thing that we were the first one, we observed this in this national park, and we try to learn from that to basically inspire and take this to the drone technology, was the load management between these birds. Canadian geese, they can fly 2,400 kilometers in a single day and a half. So once we did the modeling and calculation, so I'm going to skip this mathematical modeling or aerodynamic modeling, we find that the birds that they are at the middle position, they save more energy than the birds in the lead or in the tail of the flock. But those migratory birds like crane, Canadian geese, northern bald ibises, snow geese, so they are flying as a family and they know each other. So they have different age, different level of experience, different level of health. So who decide who should be the leader and when they switch the leadership? So We developed some machine learning algorithms to study these agents and understand the physics behind them and see that how they save energy. So our study showed that if these birds are flying in a V and they start to switch their position or shuffling, they can go from 20% to 44% extra distances through this managing the load between themselves. So now imagine that you are integrating to the drones, to the fixing drones, and they are flying together, and then you can go extra 40% longer distances with just managing or taking advantage from this aerodynamic effect. So this is a short video which shows that national park, you will see thousands of the birds flying together, and then they start to make flocks. We have done some simulation analysis about optimization of the overlap between the wings. We have built flapping wings in order to study the load between themselves, that how much load they are spending. And here it shows with artificial flapping wings, and they are connected to the load cell to mimic basically this formation flight, as you can see it here. We have done some flow visualization. Our study actually shows that how these birds, they save energy depend on their locations. So we have done some flow visualization in order to understand the physics behind them. So this is a very unique way in order to understand what happens in the nature and what inspiration we can get to increase the efficiency of the drones. The other thing is the coloration. And that has been something that I initiated in 2017, and a lot of researchers across the world that followed my work, is that why birds have different colors. So if you ask biologists why birds, they have different colors, they have two answers. The first one is they want to attract mate, or they want to do the camouflage. But if you look at this oceanic bird like albatross, which I consider as the laziest bird in the universe, because they don't do anything. They just harness energy from the sheer wind over the ocean, and they fly for long distances. They all have black color at the top, and they have white color at the bottom side. So I am from New Mexico in US. So if I go outside with this black t-shirt, I feel more hot. So what happened in these birds, their top part is black, so it's going to absorb heat, and it changed the flow around them. So like hot air balloons, they gain extra lift, and they reduce their drag. So we actually applied this, and we built 5 airfoils. That can be, one of them is actually this albatross airfoil. The other one is Knockout 2412, which is a common airfoil used in the fixing UAVs as well as in other types of planes. And with just 10-degree temperature difference, lift to drag ratio can enhance a lot. So you see the difference here. The black and white coloration, they have about maximum of 25 degrees Celsius temperature difference. So we have been trying to apply this type of technology in the aviation industry, as well as in the fixed wing drone or also flapping wings, in order to increase their flight time and flight efficiency and reduce their drag. The same story with the monarchs. So we did a project about the coloration of the monarchs, that why they have these patterns of color. The same story here. If you are a subscriber of National Geographic, actually November issue, they actually featured us about this project that we talked about why monarch butterfly, they have these white spots in the black trailing edge. And here we showed that the zebra patterns of black and white and black trailing edge would increase their flight efficiency to the 3,000 miles that those small insects can fly. So monarchs are flying 3,000 miles from southern Canada to central Mexico in 2.5 months. These tiny insects. And then this is amazing. 82% of their flight is through just soaring or gliding. They're exposed to the sun radiation. And I want to show you here. This shows in the cold temperature, and you can see the temperature difference of these white spots in the black trailing edge, which actually they reduce their drag and increase their lift through their coloration. So we have been trying to look at that. The same in the aquatic animals. They have the same features like underwater robots, the black and white. And now I want to get to this application of the drones. So if you want to use drones for monitoring the concentrated solar panels or solar farms, the drones can be used for just understanding or finding any malfunctions in solar panels, or sometimes dust cover the solar panel. And with the current technology, drones cannot fly more than an hour, the quadcopter, and that's basically a problem for inspection. So if you look at the nature, the birds, they are applying a mechanism which is called a thermal soaring. In a helix way, they go up, they don't flap, they just soar, and they use this temperature gradient and try to basically increase their elevation, and then they glide and they find another heat rising air. They take advantage of the same thing. So here, what we have proposed here, to have a drone which it can fly and harness 20% of energy that the solar panels they are receiving, they are reflecting to the air, and they created these heat fluxes. And then we have developed a drone can fly from 6 to 10 hours, a fixed wing that can harness this upward lift and fly over the solar panel and do the inspection. We have looked at amphibious drones. Drones can dive into the water, change configuration to the fish. We have looked at water lilies.
Penguins.
Yeah. We have looked at water lilies as a potential hubs, drone hubs, because they're the best solar collectors for application of drones in marine environment. And this is one of my projects I did a couple of years ago, like probably a decade ago, that having so looking at the nature, how animals they escape from predator or the defense mechanism. So one thing that we have in the biology is called autotomy, which basically the lizards, they sacrifice their tail to rescue the rest of their body. One of the projects that we did is actually developing a fixed-wing drone that's flying as a UAV and can convert it to 5 smaller micro aerial vehicles. So here the idea is that if a part is attacked by a rocket or got damaged, it can discard that part, and drones can still continue the mission with the rest of the components. So this is just an example. So smart city, in the next 5-10 years, we will see the integration of the drones to our communities and to the urban areas and rural areas. So this is coming, and then there is a lot of advantage and disadvantages here. Like cybersecurity is one of the big challenges. But one project that I have been working with NASA and National Science Foundation here in the US is that how we can develop some sorts of the drone nest or drone vertiport that can support drone, charge drones, deploy drones in a fully autonomous way. So here we have looked at the trees, and then we have developed 3 inspired vertiports that basically drones can land there, can get charged, can dump their data there. And if you look at the trees, the birds that make their nest there, honeybees or wasps that makes their hives there. So this is the concept that we have developed, can be integrated to our cities, and any authorized person can connect it to this trees as a hub and fly drones, launch them. We actually built one of this here, and I want to show you the application of this in oil and gas industry, these animations. So orphaned oil and gas is one of the biggest challenges, is that they leak the methane gas. And here are projects funded by National Science Foundation is to have this portable, sustainable vertiport for monsters in the field, which they can basically monitor the environment, the weather condition, and deploy a swarm of the drones, which they can fly in that region and collect information and map the type of gases, as well as all those information that you want to collect in the field. So the other application, I have 2 projects from mining industry in order to integrate drone technology to the mining. Here, if you have any electronics that goes to the coal mine, should be intrinsically safe or permissible. And any regulation, like in the US, there is a MSHA, which is stands for Mine Health and Safety Association. They have a restrict rules for any electronics that goes to the coal mines, because coal mines, they have the methane gas, and any electronic should be permissible. Permissibility means that you should put in the container with a 1/4 inch steel, and basically it's impossible for a drone fly in that condition. So the projects that we did, we have the last 4 years, is to develop the first permissible or intrinsically safe drones for coal mines. So we built this drone, which is this composite material, can stand 150 psi pressure, and all the electronics inside of this component. So now the problem is that how we are going to attach the propellers to the motors. So we used magnetic coupler, and through the magnetic force, we basically rotate the propellers. So everything is inside of the enclosure, and with the heat sink, we mitigate the heat. So this was one of our first successful flight, which actually is very heavy drones because permissibility and safety increase the weight of the drone. And we have been trying to do some optimization in this matter. So everything is custom made, including the battery. And here you can see the temperature is like 13 degrees Celsius, and it shows that our heat sinks, they have been working to mitigate the heat from the internal electronics. This is monocopter. This is our big projects. We have been funded by NIOSH, CDC in the United States, that we have developed a multi-agent drone robot system for search and rescue in underground mines. So here, this is basically a Husky UGV that we have developed a smart box, which that box would basically deploy drone, and our drone would have a precision landing capability in the GPS denied environment. So again, going back to the nature, is that the flowers and bees, they talk to each other through the magnetic field. And the way it works, flowers, they create a very weak magnetic field. And once the bees, they are flying around the flowers, they have a small hair in their legs and their body. So because of that magnetic field, those hair get a static charge and start to move and vibrate in that magnetic field. And once they get close to the flowers, they land exactly over the flowers. And that's basically, we have been trying to develop some precision landing capability for the drones, which they can land exactly over the flowers. So we are using the same methodology here, having a robot and our drones that have this characteristic. So this is actually a short video that we tested in underground mines in Missouri, which basically shows our drones flying and try to collect information and create the map while it's flying in underground mines. And so the challenge about underground mines is it's dark, it's dusty, it's GPS denied. It's very, very hard to fly in those sorts of situation. But what we have been doing, we have this map generated by this robot as well as by our drone in order to have more efficient way for the search and rescue during time of accident in the mines. So we have developed a sensor packages that can be carried by this rover, and they can communicate with drones for situational awareness. So we have developed an ostrich egg inspired sensor package, which they can measure humidity, pressure, the type of gases, the level of oxygen, and the drones and robots, they basically modify their past planning based on the information that you're getting from this stationary sensors that you are dropped by unmanned ground vehicles. So now I want to get to the main project that you basically were talking about taxidermy bird. So one of the applications, so drones by today, they have more than 200 applications. And one of the applications is for wildlife monitoring. So if you want to use quadcopters or hexacopter for wildlife monitoring, there is a lot of challenges there. So those create noise, and animals will be scared and scattered, and you cannot basically follow them. And that's one of the one challenge. The other one is the bird strike. And probably you have seen in lots of videos that drones are being attacked by birds, or birds get hurt by drones. So here, what we did about 2 years ago, we still have been working on that, and we have a new project which will be out really soon in the continuation of this, is that these are, I should basically clarify this. We haven't killed any bird for this project. So these are naturally dead bird taxidermied by taxidermists. We just purchase them and try to do reverse engineering and make them as a drone again and make them fly again. So here, this is our bird, the pheasant, and the pigeon feathers, and also the wings. These are the hummingbird's wings. And what we have been looking at to apply this type of the components of the taxidermy birds into the drones in order to create this type of motions. So here I want to show you the full flight of this. And as you can see it here, we have built multiple examples. They are flapping wing as well as they are fixed wing. So with different feathers, wings. And I don't know, you know Stephen Colbert or no? This has a show in the United States. I want to show you a point that he brought it here.
We have a power pack. We have a power pack show tonight. A young lay searches are turning taxidermy birds into drones, which could be potentially a very useful espionage tool because it will look more like the real thing and hopefully is more inclined to be ignored. Maybe ignored by spy targets, but what about the other birds? Oh my God, Phil, we thought you were dead. Hey, everybody. Phil, Phil, hey, Mary, I love you, Phil. Don't you recognize the kids?
So he actually brought a very good point because we don't know how nature is going to respond to this technology. So currently, we have envisioned 3 civil applications for these drones. The first one is for wildlife monitoring. The second one is flying these drones with the flock of the birds to study that, how they communicate with each other, how they save energy, how coloration would help birds to save energy. And that's the reason that we built this example for gliding and soaring. And the new application that we have defined, if you go to the airports that are near the ocean, so one of their big challenges is bird strike. So it's basically flock of the birds that can get into the engine and then they can hurt animals. They will die and they also hurt engines. So if you have a predator birds like an eagle or hawks and do the same thing, and we program them to fly around the airports, you no longer see the flocks around the plane. So that's another application. So currently we have been working with the duck, the mallard duck. That's on new projects. We have been looking at the perching mechanism with shape memory alloy, that those birds can basically land over the trees or the electricity grids in order to get charged. And we are also working a water version of that, the swimming version that they can swim in the water. So we have been looking at the leaf or one-time used inspired leaf insects inspired drone. So the leaves, the drones that they can be built from these materials of leaves, and a new project that we have started. So whatever I talked here was about biomimicry and bioinspiration. So now we are looking at meteorological inspired drones, religion inspired drone, cultural inspired drone, as well as historical inspired drone. So if you look at the meteorology of different culture, they are talking about flying objects, including the flying rugs or carpets, witch sticks, dragons, the different types of birds. So Stephen Colbert called my bird Phil, but we call it Phoenix because Phoenix is come from his ashes. So we have been looking at archaeological flights and inspired drones in order to understand those type of creatures and how we can learn from them or based on the culture. So for example, there are different cultures that are talking about flights, so extracting them, and like a Navajo culture in the US or indigenous people here, that how we can basically develop technologies or drones based on these things. So these are like all my research. I have been running a drone program at New Mexico Tech. So I have educated K-12 students, high school students, middle school students, their teachers. They come and they learn about drone technology. They build drones here, and about 400 undergraduate students they have educated about this, as well as 35 master and PhD in my team that the research actually was the one that I presented. I have 10 research laboratories, and about 9 of them is drone related, from the airships to the drones in the simulated mines to our drone cage, which is small platforms that you can connect it online. You can fly drones online. There are fans can create the wind patterns, and you see the flight trajectory on your drone, as well as some fundamental labs that we have. These are my funding resources that I should acknowledge them, and I think that's all. So
Thank you very much. If there's any particular projects that people want to read up more about afterwards, where's the best place for them to go to find out more details?
All of this, I have a YouTube channel. If they search my name, they can see a couple of my recorded videos there, and then I have a website. I can share it with you guys. It's about these things, and if they want to look from the scientific aspects, my Google Scholar, if they search my name, all my publications, they are available in Google Scholar as well as in the ResearchGate.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah,
very much.
in the chat, or sorry, in the description of the video too, there are a few links to I believe your YouTube's in there, and I think your Instagram as well. So yeah.
And I think there are a few questions in the chat that we will ask in a second. But I wanted to ask, I mean, you've looked at sort of the biomechanics of birds, and you've looked at the mechanics of drones. And I was wondering how much of it is, because obviously like a bird is flying around most of the day and like eats a few crumbs of bread occasionally, and that's fine. And a drone can, you know, fly at the same sort of speed for a couple of minutes and then needs recharging. So how much of it is that the batteries we have are just not very energy dense, and how much of it is that our drones are not very efficient? Like where's the benefit?
So here, so we are looking at two different types of drones. So we have a quadcopter drones, which the propellers are responsible to generate lift and thrust, and we have the flapping wing drones, which the wings is responsible to generate lift and thrust. So the way that the birds they flap, there are two steps. There is downstroke and upstroke. In downstroke, the wind is straightforward and it just goes down, and the wing in that stage is generating lift. And once thrust, it's break their wings, twist it, and that's the place that they have less lift and they have more thrust. And that's the reason that birds are flying like that. So there are multiple ways that birds save energy, which we have been trying to look at that, from their beak shape to their body shape to the harnessing energy from resources. Like I talked to albatross. These are as I said, they're laziest birds in the universe because they are flying 9,000 miles nonstop. And I heard in the literature that they just sleep 2 seconds per night. And because they don't do anything, they just harness energy from the sheer wind over the ocean, or they harness energy from the thermals. So that's the reason that birds, they can fly for long times. Or I talked about Canadian geese, 2,400 kilometers in a single day and a half is a lot. There is no any single drone in that size can achieve the same thing. So there are multiple factors. So regarding the endurance, which is one of the big challenges of drones, I mean, depend on the configuration for sure, the aerodynamics of the drones, its shapes, and its size, its weight. So there are multiple factors, but the current life of batteries, they probably give like an hour max for the flight. But a new technology which is coming, and we have a pending book about liquid hydrogen or fuel cell technology into the drone. There is a Korean company called MetaVista, and they have built a quadcopter which is flying 11 hours with a 350 grams liquid hydrogen. So this is a new technology, or that you will see in the future, that our drone will be able to fly longer distances. Or drones can be like, if your flight range is not too much, there can be laser guided power drones. So it's basically you can send the photons or energy from the ground through the laser and charge the batteries while you are flying. Just lock the laser into drone. So there are multiple ways, and I think the future of drone technology is going to be that direction, to make drones that they are basically can fly longer distances as well as longer time with more endurance.
Interesting. Huh. So, you know, I actually had a question. It's not exactly on the technological side of things, but I'm just curious, with the design aspects of what you're doing with the mimicry, have you gotten any pushback from like naturalists or people that are maybe like, oh, nature lovers and whatnot?
So actually, yes, last night I had the same presentation in Los Alamos, in another city in the north of New Mexico. They are all bird lovers, and the 150 people that actually attended my talk, and here I haven't had, because nature is beautiful. You just look at that, you get inspiration, and through that we basically appreciate the nature.
Absolutely.
But for my dead bird drone, I actually got a little bit because the way that news get out was that we developed this technology to spy on the people, which was not right. And that was connected to this conspiracy theory that birds are not real. And right? And so they actually reached out to me asking me.
It's a squirrel. We covered it.
Yeah. So, I mean, everybody's known it's a joke, but but I clarified in my other interviews that this is something that's going to help nature, not hurt nature, right? So lots of birds in the wildlife, they are being killed by drones, or they're attacked by, or drones are attacked by them. And this is we call it nature-friendly drone. It's a configuration which is just feathers and wings and bones, right? And then we are using that as a platform to save nature rather than hurting natures.
And it seems like they can kind of blend in almost too, right? Like I'm sure a bird could maybe be able to tell that, something's a little off with this bird, but just sort of
the funny part, the first time we were testing this in the field, we found out the birds are flying around, they don't care. But Stephen Colbert had a good point. How about if you have a predator bird and flying around? So for sure they might attack to these robotic birds. So what we have been trying to explore now is integration of artificial intelligence into this type of robotic birds in order to make them smart enough to maneuver, as well as the way that birds harnessing energy, and then they can fly for longer times, because current prototype that we have built is like from 10 to 15, 20 minutes. That's their flight time. And we have been looking at the other aspects I showed you, that how we can make them fly for longer times.
In just the last few minutes before we come up to the end of the hour, Caroline was asking about, I think, about the dandelion drones. Actually, probably the colorings of the wings. Is it? Do you know if it's the warmer air that's creating a thin film? She's asking, does it create a thin film for reduced drag?
Exactly. So what happens here, so the top part, which is black, the bottom side is white, and we actually have looked at all the black and white wings to explain why they have specifically considered this type of the coloration patterns. And we have a pending patent, and my former PhD students actually initiated a company based on this. So here, it depends on the position. So the most efficient one there is the one that their trailing edge is black. So they have the highest lift to drag ratio, and the way it works is change the boundary layer around them and the airflow, and they have a drag reduction because of that patterns, we call it heated boundary layer, and also changing the lift. So the other example, if you look at the cranes or other birds, their wing tips are black. If you ask biologists why those birds have black pigmentation in their wingtips, the answer is black colors come from the concentration of melanin, and melanin would increase the strength of feathers. Our experimental study showed that between black and white, there can be maximum of 25 degrees Celsius temperature difference. So those wing tips, those are the regions that you have those upwash and downwash regions, and you have those vortices. And that temperature difference is going to change the shape of those vortices. And again, you have drag reduction. And that's the reason that eagles, crows, all those big birds, they have black pigmentation in their wingtips. So depending on the positions, it can be different aerodynamic characteristics.
And actually, something else. Yeah, Caroline also was wondering about the the dandelion ones, do they generate the vortex via convection or movement?
So the dandelions, once they expose to the side wind, so the airflow or from the bottom side, so the airflow is passing, they have the poppus. So, and then they basically create pressure difference at the top and the bottom side. And that pressure difference, they generate lift. So that's the way how they stay in the air, and the convection is basically take them forward. So they fly through the wind, but they stay in the wind through this lift which they are generating.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Because you're looking at nature just for efficiency. Because everything's just been min-maxed.
yeah.
And,
Well, it's,
yeah.
I mean, everything that we know is basically, you know, or anything that we try to take from is most of the times from nature. So it makes sense that you utilize that aspect of it for, you know, for this sort of technology side of things. It's very cool.
Thank you.
I do like your cyborg logo with the pigeon with the antenna on it. I think that'd make an excellent tattoo.
Cyborg, right? We call them cyborg. So
Cyborg.
the way that this works is that here there is like some sorts of research in this area controlling the beetle or a control implant and the brain of the pigeon. But the way that works are two different ways. The one part is through the brain control. The other one is through controlling the muscle through the nerving system. So the way that it works, they send some pulse to the nerving system and get the feedback, and with just controlling or programming the electronic chip, they can control their motion. But this is, I mean, I haven't touched this area, but because I don't think it's moral to use animal for our own perspective. That's the reason I work with the dead bird, not with the live one.
Yeah,
That's
it's it kind of like reminds me of that parasitic fungus in ants. I can't remember what it's called. What is it?
But it's it's fascinating. It's definitely interesting to hear that you know specifically gone out and found birds that have died. I mean, that's that. I'm sure if Tony had known that at the very beginning, he would have
been here
on the idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on and for
having me,
informing us about all of this.
Yeah,
very interesting. We've had lots of comments in the chat.
I'm sorry that I went really fast, so I wanted to give you an overall view of what you have been doing. So
no, it's
it was
fascinating.
Great. Absolutely.
When your new release project comes out, feel free, drop us a message. You're always welcome back. You are deeply fascinating. It's the quickest hour I've ever had.
I feel like it's like we need another hour just to hear more. Like,
I mean,
maybe another time. Yeah.
We are teachers here in university, so we can talk for the whole day. So.
Yeah.
Do you fly for fun or anything? Do you?
I do drone filming as well. I fly drones, and so I am actually building at New Mexico Tech a drone facility here, with about 36,000 square feet netted drone cage with tracking system, with 90 feet height, which basically everybody can fly drones, and different types of drones. Yeah,
that is the dream.
That's cool.
And we are creating a drone major. If anybody interested to study, this is welcome to join.
Wow, definitely. Thank you.
That's so cool.
Thank you so much.
That's been very informative. You've been unbelievably listening to Let's Drone Out. What a nice change. We've had wonderful guests, Mostafa and Andrew/Frank.
Here, I'll do it, Jack. Mostafa Hassanalian. Dr. Mostafa Hassanalian.
Everybody call me Mostafa, so.
Yeah.
Our Lord and Master Andrew/Frank.
Goodbye.
My buddy Carl, thank you for that.
See ya.
And I've been Jack, right until I fly. Thank you to all our wonderful patrons. Have a good night.
Bye.